Welcome to design thinking or creative thinking for Take Charge Tuesday, right? This Take Charge Tuesday feels a little bit special for me. I always tell everyone who asks me about doing video, people who say, I want to do video, but then they don't. And because they have like a bunch of obstacles and things that they can't do and don't want to do. I understand the don't want to do part, but the can't do is what always gets me. Like, I can't do that because I don't have a office, or I don't have a fancy camera. I don't have all those things. And a little bit of the topic for today kind of hits at that idea, the idea that you have to have everything in order to do anything, right? So if you have a product or a service or something that you want to get out into the world, marketing that you want to do, you can't do any of it unless you can do all of it. And of course, that is very problematic thinking, because the truth is that the majority of really awesome things that happen in the world happen because someone started, and not because they attempted to finish before they started. So they attempted to like gear up for the finish line way before they even got out of the gate. So that said, the reason why this Take Charge Tuesday is a little special for me is because this is the last one in this office. If you're watching this in, later, you'll probably see a different version of this office from previous episodes of Take Charge Tuesday. And that is because I am moving. And today is the final Take Charge Tuesday in this office before we are set up in the new place. And I'm super excited about that. I am, this is not that you care about my life, but I bought a house and I'm very excited about moving in. We've officially moved in. And this is no longer going to be my office. And I'm like, it's bittersweet because this was such a good jumping off point for Take Charge Tuesday, and so many awesome things happened here. And it's now time to move into the next phase. So what is this creative process thing that I'm talking about, and why is it that I am talking about it in like reference to the idea of how to start and when to start and how starting actually matters? Well, the reasons for that are pretty simple, because I have been an entrepreneur for years, for over a decade. And one of the things that I have found in my time as an entrepreneur is that there are plenty of small business owners, because I'm an entrepreneur who consults with other small business owners. Have found that there's so many people who have big dreams and ideas, and their challenge is that they want the big dream or the big idea to come to fruition exactly as they see it in their mind initially. Like, before anything else happens, they want the full product, the full service, the full thing. And if they can't have that, then they don't want to do it at all. Now, I really think, and I'm going to be fully honest here, I think that this all or nothing thinking that happens there with a lot of entrepreneurs, small business owners, entrepreneurs, is actually more a function of not of like fear, like fearing both failure and success. The idea that like, well, if I can't have it all, then I won't have anything, is a very self-sabotaging type of feeling. Because the reality is, like I said, any number of real things that have happened in the world have happened because of incremental change over a period of time. It doesn't even have to be a long period of time. It could be a short period of time, but that incremental change over time is where a lot of the magic happens. And so what I want us to be thinking about when we think about creative thinking or design thinking is not beginning with the end in mind. So yes, I believe in that wholeheartedly, but I don't want us to begin with the end in mind so dramatically, so the end is so rooted in us that we can't see that there is an entire a journey, a whole process, a whole set of things that are going to happen between now and when the thing is that we get to. That is what I don't want us to overlook. There is a whole process. So what does that look like? I think that the first thing you want to do, if you have a big, huge idea and you know what that idea is, you know where you want to go with the thing, but maybe you don't have the resources you need to get it there. You don't have the time right now to dedicate to that larger thing, but you want to do something. First thing you need to do is think about your user. Whoever your end user is, not necessarily the person who's going to buy it, but the end user, whoever that end user is, what are the characteristics of that person? Like, what does their life look like? What does their day to day look like? What are their hopes and dreams? What are their motivations? What are their fears? What are their pains? What does that person actually look like? And you are looking at this person because what we're going to do is take that idea and turn it into something that is many, many steps backwards. So we're going to draw out from that big idea and kind of work our way towards something that you can do right now. But in order to do that in an effective way, a way that is going to lead you down a purposeful path towards your dreams, towards what you're trying to do, you have to keep the customer in mind. Otherwise, you could end up building something that is not useful to the customer, and then you'll never get to your big dream. So we don't want to, let's say, for instance, I love the analogy of a car. If building a car company is your dream and you don't have the resources to build a car company right now, I don't necessarily want you to start out with building a lemonade stand in order to get you to your car dream, mostly because you're not then serving the same customers. You want to be thinking, okay, how do I get to my car dream while serving the same people essentially that would need to buy that car, but with something that isn't a car that I actually can create. But we have to know those people pretty well. We have to know who these audience members are, what they need, what your characteristics are of your end user. So who are these people? First and foremost. So now that you have an idea, who are the people? Name out their characteristics. Now, after you kind of get an idea of their characteristics, demographics, things like that, I want you to hone in on their needs. So what is it that they need? So again, going back to that car analogy, if you have a car that you are trying to create and you are thinking, okay, I want to make a car company, but I do not have the resources for that right now. What is it that I can create that fits a transportation need for my end user? Now, this only works, of course, if that end user's goal is transportation and if your car is a car that is about transportation. So if you're building a car that is not about transportation, it's about something else, then you could potentially build something that isn't transportation based. So I'm thinking here of an electric car. So if you are thinking you want to build an electric car, that is where you want to go. But your end user cares about the environment. You care about the environment. That's why you want to build an electric car. You want to minimize the usage of oil, whatever that thing is. Then you want to go back and think, okay, what does my end user actually need as it relates to preserving the earth, as it relates to getting rid of fossil fuels in their lives? What is it that I can provide that can help them get to that goal now, even though I'm not building a car yet? So it just really is about your customer's need, but it's also about the end product and what the purpose of that end product is. So again, if the purpose of the end product is transportation, then you're going to look at the transportation needs of your customer. If the purpose of the end product is environmental, saving the planet, then you're going to look at the needs of your customer as it relates to saving the planet. This is how we get to something that is actually palatable, something that you can actually create today that is going to be a through line to what your customer actually needs, what they actually want, can take you from today all the way through to the point where you actually build out that big thing like a car, right? And then lastly, this is something that if we do this, it doesn't really matter. All these things are great if you have a business and you have a new idea. If you have no business and you have a new idea. If you have a business and you have old ideas, because I know I'm that person who has old ideas that I'm like dredging up. Wherever you are, what stage of business you're in, all of those things, this little exercise here actually helps you. So we've got what it is that you're trying to accomplish, what's your big thing that's out there in the future. We have identified the characteristics of the user. We're kind of giving them a name and a face. You can call it a buyer persona if that makes you feel good. So you're building out a buyer persona. And then from that buyer persona, you're going to hone in on the needs. Like, what is it that person needs? But not just in general, directly related to that product that you're offering. Now, then the last thing that you're going to look at, it's not the last thing in general, but the last thing you're going to look at the beginning of this conversation is what's the customer's experience. So why is it that the user is experiencing this need? So it's not just what the need is, but it is why they need this thing. Why do they have a need? This need that they have is the thing that you're going to be aiming at. So you need to know the why behind the need. Hey, Alex. I love it when y'all drop in and say hi. So you are going to look at the need itself. Okay. Very important. You're not just looking at the idea of what the need is. You're going to look at the need and figure out why. Where is the need coming from? So back to that car analogy. If we have someone who needs transportation, the question is, why do they need transportation? If you're going to build something that's not a car because you want that car later, you're going for it. If you're going to build a car and you know that they need transportation, the question is, why do they need transportation? Because the thing that you build for them, the thing that's going to be useful to them is going to be fully contingent on that why. So if, there's a million things that you can produce between feet walking in a car, right? Like, there's a million things you could create. But if you don't know the why the person needs transportation, you could end up creating the wrong thing. So I want you to think in your mind of the difference between a scooter and a skateboard. And this is to me, this is a very good analogy. The difference between a scooter and a skateboard. One of them is recreational, right? So you are taking a skateboard because you are having fun. You are doing something fun. You are enjoying yourself. You may use your skateboard for transporting you from one place to another. You may actually do that. But for the most part, unless you are a kid who doesn't have a driver's license, a skateboard is not really taking you somewhere, like not for real on purpose, right? Like you're using it, but it is more for entertainment and exercise or whatever than it is for transportation. Now, as an adult, okay. So if you are an adult and you get on a scooter, though, on the other hand, most of us know that scooters are actually used for transportation, but they're not used for all transportation. They're used for short distance transportation in good weather. So if someone has great weather and they are interested in getting from point A to point B without walking, then they can hop on a scooter and it'll get them there faster. Now, the question is we got a why here, is transportation. When you're looking at we got a need as transportation, when we're looking at the why for our customer, if you were thinking about making a scooter, knowing the why is really important, because if the reason why is because they are living in a suburb and they want to get to the city in a reasonable fashion without having, to wait in a lot of traffic or something, whatever that why is, then depending on how far away we're talking, a scooter is not a good answer, right? A scooter does not help them get their answer to their problem. So we need to be thinking about what the why is so that we can design something for that why. And if you go to the electric car example and we get to the idea of the need, which is kind of to save the planet, it's not necessarily just for transportation, it's also to save the planet. When we get there, then the why, it becomes really important, because there are a ton of things that you can create that will help someone save the planet today before they can afford a electric car, right? So electric cars are becoming more affordable, which is fantastic, but a lot of us still can't afford them. And so what is it that you can provide that someone can do right now that will help you fund the dream of building an electric car, but also will satisfy that person's need to save the planet today, right? So we just need to know what the need is and why they have that need, so that we can make sure that we're creating the right thing. Because again, with the electric car example, there are a ton of things that you can create for someone to help them save the planet. There's plenty of things. So the question is, why does that person want to save the planet? And what can you create that solves that why? Right? So I hope you all are getting the idea behind this. Design thinking and creative thinking are not about like a entrepreneur, like a graphic design process. I think a lot of people think of this as a process that people go through when they are designing, physically designing something in a graphic design type format. And in reality, it is so much more useful than that. It is not just about designing a product. It is about trying to figure out what it is that you're doing that actually solves for an issue for your customer, right? That is what we're doing. So thinking about that, thinking through it, and thinking clearly is what creative and design thinking are all about. So if you got something out of this and you're like, but Lindsay, I want to learn more, because there's a whole lot more. I'm looking at my notes. There is a whole lot more to design thinking. And I would love to have you come and join me while I do a workshop all about design thinking. I want us to noodle things together. I use the word noodle to mean think things through together. Think about this topic, think about your business, think about your ideas, your big ideas, your small ideas, all of your ideas, and try to figure out how to make those things happen in the real world in a reasonable fashion that is going to get you some results and get you where you're trying to go today, so that you can really blast off to where you want to go in the future. I am going to drop into the chat a link for you to join me. I have a workshop coming up in just a few minutes, and I would love to have you join me today on that workshop at 6 p.m. And yeah, that's it. There's the link. 6 p.m. Join me. We love doing show and tell. So if you join us, you will definitely get some hands-on information, because we'll internet hands-on information, because that's how I love to roll. So that is it for today. I'm going to hop off and make sure that I am ready for my workshop that is starting at 6 p.m. And I will see you next week from a new location. Bye, everyone.